Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I am your host, Lake. I am riding solo once again for this episode, but we have a very cool and unique episode. Something we have never talked about on the DCL Podcast because it has not really been possible up until now. We have someone who did a little ship hopping, a back-to-back, but got off the Wish and onto the Fantasy. So I was very excited when we saw this one come across our Be a Part of the Show link. This is, again, something unique that we haven't talked about, a new process to dive into here, and a new process for this sailor as well as being a first-time Disney Cruiser. So lots of fun things to unpack here, going from different classes of ship, the Wish to the Fantasy. Without further ado, let's get into it. I would like to welcome our guest for today, Cassie. Cassie, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for agreeing to come on and talk about your sailings. So why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your Disney and cruising background?
My husband and I went to Disney World in 2018, just as a couple's trip. And that's kind of the only time I've been with Disney as an adult. While we dated and a few times before we had kids, we've gone on Royal Caribbean cruises. And then we've actually taken our daughter, who just turned 5, on 3 Royal Caribbean cruises before this. So we were kind of comfortable with cruising. And then when our daughter fell in love with all Disney princesses, we were like, we really got to jump on this Disney bandwagon in some way. And I was intimidated to try the parks with her yet. And we also have an 18-month-old, so I didn't want to bring a baby on a park. So I was like, let's try a Disney cruise.
Awesome. And we definitely tried multiple cruises on this sailing. So tell us a little bit about the sailings you booked and what your thought process was behind this.
Yeah, so we're kind of really obsessed with Frozen in this household. So in doing our research on the Disney ships, like first that was overwhelming because we had no idea where to even start. But we're very spreadsheet people. So we created a spreadsheet of all the highlights of the ships, their sizes, their restaurants, kind of their theming a little bit. And we narrowed it down to the Wish for Arendelle, and then Frozen show was on the Fantasy. So those two really sparked our interest. I know the Fantasy does longer sailings, but the Wish only does 3 and 4 nights. And that wasn't quite long enough for us to justify flying all the way down to Florida. We decided we were going to try to put 2 ships together. At first, we looked at doing like a Disney The Wish for 3 or 4 nights and then doing a Royal Caribbean right afterwards. But ultimately, the dates worked out that we found 2 Disney ships, so we just went from one to the other.
Awesome. Yeah. And that second sailing was a 5-night on the Fantasy, as we mentioned. Once we get to the middle of this recording, we will definitely dive more into that process. What information was Disney able to provide to you about this process before the sailing?
Pretty much nothing. So we did have a travel agent we were going through. So she was making all the calls and everything. And she assured us that they would have some way for us to get from one ship to another, that we wouldn't be walking from one dock to another. Although that was my first idea was, they're right there, so we could walk. But we realized that wasn't as safe as we thought it could be. So we were just kind of told it would all work out kind of along the whole process.
Interesting. Like I said, we will dive back into that. But before we get there, we have a whole first sailing to talk about. Would you repeat again who sailed with you? And then how did you get down to the port? And what was that process like?
Oh, sure. So it was my husband, James, and I. And then we have she's 5 now. She turned 5 actually on the trip, our daughter. And then we had an 18-month-old son. So we flew into Orlando, and then we stayed one night at Port Orleans French Quarter. I would recommend that for a quick stay. It was their smallest resort from what we could find, and so it was so easy to get around. We were able to go to Disney Springs the night before we got on the ship. Well, we took Mears to get us to the resort, and then we took Disney Transport to the ship, to the port.
And what did you think of the process of taking the Disney Transport to the port?
It was so smooth. So there was information all along the way. We knew exactly where to be, when to be. Again, with being at Port Orleans French Quarter, they had a playground right outside. the main lobby. So we just kind of hung out at the playground until it was time to go. And then we lined up and it was smooth. It wasn't a big group. We didn't fill up the whole bus. So we had plenty of space. And yeah, it was just great. As a mom, I was very happy not to have to bring any car seats or worry about transportation and just know that we were going to be there on time. We also, as we had never done Disney before, we had a pretty late port arrival time initially. And this just got us on the ship pretty much as soon as we got there.
Yeah, one good benefit for using that Disney provided transfer, especially if you're a first time cruiser, is your port arrival time basically does not matter because you will get there when the bus gets there. And usually, if you have that later time, it will actually be earlier than what that time is. And because you booked it through Disney, they will let you go through right away, which can be a nice benefit.
Yeah.
What did you think of Disney's port and their embarkation process?
So I didn't know this initially until we saw the other port, but we were not at the Disney port. So we were at the other one. There's 8 and 10. I forget which one is the Disney one and which is not. But we were at the other one for the Wish. And so we didn't see the ship model. We didn't see all the cool art and stuff until our second sailing. But still, it was pretty smooth. We just went through the security. It did seem like there were more starts and stops than Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean, you kind of just walk right through and they keep you moving the whole time. I think unless you get there super early. But that would be my only thing, is that we had some starts and stops, but ultimately it was smooth and we went pretty much on the ship, within half an hour of getting there.
Awesome. So we get on board and we have that grand entrance into the grand hall there. What was it like boarding the Disney Wish for the first time?
Oh, it was pretty awesome. They gave us the wands and announced our names. And I remember Tiana was up high dancing. And then I knew to stay for the little welcome ceremony. So we did that. That was short and sweet and just pretty nice. It was beautiful, but I had spoiled myself a lot with watching a ton of videos, so I knew what to expect.
Where is the first place your family is heading?
We went to the kids club first. That was our priority. We wanted to check that out before food or anything like that.
And what did your kids think of the kids club?
So my daughter immediately did the slide. That was the biggest highlight. So she did that. And I think my husband did the slide too. So I had to find a back entrance way with the elevators to get the baby downstairs. But we had a great time. We just checked it all out. So she was in the 4 age group, and we did have Magic Band Pluses already that we had brought with us for my husband, myself, and my daughter. And they actually gave her an extra little clip on it, a little gray band. I think it was some kind of tracker thing. So that made me feel a little bit more secure that she had something extra tracking her wherever she was. And then, yeah, we just pretty much stayed down there until that first open house closed. So we really enjoyed ourselves down there.
Love it. So what kind of cabin did you book for your family and how did that work out for you?
Yeah, so we did the deluxe family veranda. So we had 7634. And we wanted that extra room, even though there was just 4 of us, because we knew we'd have the pack and play on the floor, and we love a balcony. So I couldn't say more good things about it. It was close enough to the elevators that it was easy to get to the stairs or the elevators. We were able to use the stairs up and down to get, I think it's Marsley Market is the buffet, and then up to or then down to, the main dining or the kids club or something like that. So I would recommend it. It was great. We didn't have any obstructed view or anything, but you could see the lifeboats if you kind of looked down right at the water.
Awesome. First time cruisers, I think it can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming about what you feel like you need to do, what you feel like you need to have pre-booked. What did your family have pre-booked for this Wish sailing specifically?
For the Wish sailing, the only thing I pre-booked was the royal gathering. So I knew that we were princess loving family, so we had to do that. That was free. So I think I stayed up till midnight to get that. We really wanted the Olaf picnic, and I just never secured it. I would check back on the app like daily before the sailing, and we just never were able to get that open. But we didn't do any excursions or anything. We knew we were going to the private islands, and we were not going to get off the ship at Nassau, so we just used that as a sea day.
Gotcha. Wonderful. Well, you definitely have quite a few days and 2 days in Nassau in this sailing. So not a huge loss there to make that another day at sea, especially on the beautiful Disney Wish. What were some of your thoughts about the Wish, especially coming from a Royal Caribbean background and about like the different venues on the ship?
We felt pretty lost right away. It took us a while to figure out our bearings, where to go, and doing the muster. I think that was, definitely different than Royal Caribbean, where you gotta just check in at your station and go. It was fine. It was actually kind of nice. We sat down and chatted with some other families with kids that had been on the ship a ton and got some pointers. So it was actually a nice experience to just do that muster. And we were inside Marvel for our muster, so that wasn't a big deal to be like with kids or anything. We just sat at a table. The venues themselves, I think, again, I was pretty lost. It was hard for me to find some things. And I think just as like the last day or so we're about to leave is when you felt really comfortable on there. They could get us to go again, which is saying, hey, you'll make up for some lost time with that next sailing. Ultimately, I think the venues were about what we expected. It was at least Royal Caribbean status, if not a little bit better. Certainly the art and the theming and just the familiarity with the characters is what we were there for, and we totally got that. We are excited about that.
Did you and your family go and do the sail away party?
We did, yeah. We were in our room and we were trying to very scramble unpack because we got our suitcases pretty quickly. That was really nice. But we probably showed up for the sail away party maybe 5 minutes early, and that doesn't seem to be a Disney thing. You need to get there a little early to get a good spot. But I took my daughter and we stood on the steps that kind of lead up to the pool, like on that second platform. And so there wasn't anyone at our height right in front of us. And it worked so great. Like we got a great show. And then after the show, they do a dance party with just like the entertainment staff, like no characters. And they allow kids to go up to that, like the one covered pool that was the main stage. And my daughter just loved that. Like we just had it was the best like start.
We love that, and we love a good sail away party as well. Well, we will start making our way around the Wish here. We're going to talk, kind of highlights, favorites from around the ship, because we do have, again, a whole second sailing to discuss and also compare and contrast between the ships here. So let's move on to entertainment. And before we get into the big shows, what did your family do for entertainment around the ship? How did you occupy your time?
We are pretty chill sailors, so we love to hang out up at the pool. We love to just kind of walk around and people watch. We did a ton of time anytime there was an open house in the kids area. And then since our son's still napping, we actually do spend a good amount of time just hanging out in our room. It was great having all the Disney videos. I think we watched hours and hours of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or whatever they had on there that my 18-month-old now says Mickey Mouse. So that was pretty fun.
Definitely nothing wrong with taking advantage of the stateroom that you spend so much money to book and stay in for the night. Well, turning it towards the shows then, you had mentioned being interested in some of the shows. Did we see any of the shows on the Wish?
We actually only made it to the first show, the one with Goofy trying to be captain.
Seize the Adventure.
Seize the Adventure, yeah. So yeah, my daughter and I made it to that one. It was just too late for all of the other ones. That by the time we got through dinner, we were pretty tired. So she actually fell asleep in that one, but she enjoyed it. And I thought it was a great show. I really liked it. We tried to watch the others. I think it was Aladdin and then Ariel or Little Mermaid was on that. We watched them from our room. So I really liked The Little Mermaid, and then we didn't quite make it through Aladdin before we fell asleep that day. But yeah, so that was really nice that we could still watch it from our room in there.
Yeah, it's definitely a great option, again, especially if you have ones that need to go down a little bit earlier, or sometimes you just don't feel like sitting in a theater full of people for 2 or an hour and a half. But Seize the Adventure is great, and it's a great, welcome aboard show. It's a very palatable, 20-minute, and you get a good variety of characters and kind of what to expect from the entertainment staff. So I'm definitely glad you were able to see that show, because that is exclusive to the Triton class. Well, why don't we turn towards dining here? You have 3 rotational dining, and this would have been your family's first experience with the rotational dining where your wait staff travels with you. What did you think of that process, and what did you think of the restaurants on board the Wish?
So our order was Marble, and then we did 2 nights in Arendelle, and then we ended in 1923. The wait staff coming with us was great. It's always nice to have them have your drink waiting for you when you come in. We always make the mistake, though, of letting our daughter have chocolate milk on the first night, and then they always give it to her after that. But then she fills up on the chocolate milk and dinner's done. So we kind of had to end that on the second night, but they were very accommodating with that and would work with her on portioning out her beverages so that she didn't just fill up. We loved Marvel. My husband, being a big nerd, was very happy with the show and the pretend buttons that we pushed on our table and everything, and my daughter got into it. Spider-Man came out and we got a little surprise meet and greet with him, just a quick one, but that was pretty fun.
Awesome. Any thoughts on the other two restaurants?
Arendelle was pretty much the reason that we went there, and I just was a little disappointed with our seating when we got there. We were definitely behind one of those serving things, and my daughter, she could see, but she had to literally stand on her chair to see any of the show, and that was a little disappointing. The show was great, and the characters did come around and talk to us and everything. The theming of the room was great. I would say if you have a Frozen fan, check out that hallway. Like, we went back and spent time taking so many pictures and videos in the hallway. The theming is just fantastic. Even the portholes, there's a summer and a winter one. Like, it was just so fun just hanging out in that hallway, besides just obviously the meal. But yeah, I would say make sure you have some time either before or after your meal or on any day to just spend some time in that hallway, because that was a highlight for us. We actually went back the next day, I guess on the day 3, they had character viewing there where we met Anna in Arendelle during the day. So we got more time just to hang out in that hallway and in that space during the day. So that was pretty cool. We also had Pirate Night in there. Pirate Night was fun, but I don't know. None of the meals were like that outstanding or anything to me. I don't really remember what we ate. It was stressful with an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old trying to get everyone to eat and watch a show sometimes, but it was still really fun. Like, definitely better than Royal Caribbean, which is just, you're just sitting at a restaurant, right?
Yeah, definitely a little bit more theme there. Very unfortunate to hear about your Arendelle seating, and unfortunately that is like the big tragedy of Arendelle, is your seating can be so 50-50. Any thoughts on 1923, which would have been your last night?
Yeah, so in 1923, we actually got a preview for that because we went and did breakfast there on the second or third day. And that restaurant, like, as an adult, was just so fun to just walk around and look at all the concept art and all the different things that they had. Even my daughter, my 5-year-old, appreciated it. She wanted to just stare at the pictures that they had and the replicas of different things from the movies that she recognized. And yeah, it just felt like pretty classy in there. The seats, though, were strange. So if you lean forward, you really lean forward. So they were just kind of weirdly shaped, would be my only thing in there. But yeah, we really liked 1923.
Well, we had mentioned doing sit-down breakfast as well. Was there any other dining on board the ship that kind of stuck out to you? Did you do any of the deck food any of the days?
We did. So we definitely learned the tip of ordering room service. So we got chicken fingers and Mickey bars to our room pretty often. So that was a good 2 o'clock treat while our son was napping. We did that a lot. The ice cream up on the pool deck, we definitely liked that there was multiple flavors. And I think on the Wish, they were serving it to you. So you would ask and they would do it there. What else? I liked the theming at Tiana's. We never ate there, but it was just a beautiful space to kind of hang out. So yeah, we really liked that. On the first lunch, we went to Marceline Market, and it was very insane, very crazy, but I just want to shout out to one of the staff. We just reached out to him and he was like, "Are you having a hard time finding a seat?" And he literally grabbed 2 tables and put them together for us, got us a high chair, and just made the experience so much nicer. And then I went on a food expedition after my husband came back with some options. And if you go all the way to the end of the desserts, past where you think the desserts are over, there's a little nook, and it had warm apple cobbler, and they will put ice cream on top of it for you. And that was the treat of the meal. It was awesome.
Love that and love the opportunity to highlight positive interaction as well. Definitely well worth it. Well, as we move towards our ports here, we have a day at sea. Anything fun and exciting that we did to fill that sea day?
No, I think we were just getting our bearings. So we did a lot of time at the kids club. We just kind of walked around. I think the weather was okay. Like we went in January, so it was hit or miss what we were going to get. But we tried it. We really wanted to do, I think it's the Aqua Mouse on that one. We never were able to. They had it be double riders for every time that we tried to. They did say that they did allow single riders during some times, but our daughter wasn't tall enough. We needed it to be single so that we could switch out the kids. So we never were able to do that, but our daughter really loves swimming in the pools.
On our Nassau day, this was our pirate day. Did you get to take advantage of the pirate party or the fireworks or any of that?
Yeah, so I think that was also the day that we did the Royal Gathering. But yeah, we did. We brought whole pirate gear. So we had booked this like at the beginning of October, I think is when we booked. So I had known about the pirate night. So we were able to go to like our local Halloween store and we got pirate gear for everybody. So we really had full outfits and got all dressed up and we were super into it. They left the bandanas in our room. So that was kind of fun to have that. And then we went to the early pirate show. So I think there's two pirate shows. There's like an early one at like 7 that we went to or 7:30. And that had all the characters kind of teaching you how to be a pirate. And so you did all these pirate dances and the kids really loved that. And then Captain Hook shows up and tries to take over the boat and we had to fight for our boat. So that was really fun. We never made it to the second one. So we pretty much went to bed after that first pirate party.
Oh, so we missed the fireworks then?
Yeah, we never made it. So we never even heard them.
Oh, that's a shame. And that is a fun party that goes along with that one as well. Well, why don't we move to a pretty interesting and new day? We have Castaway. Had you been to Royal's private island on any of your previous sailings?
We have. We've been to Royal's private island at least 3 times. We really book our cruises that go to that private island on purpose. We really love it.
So Castaway, Disney's private island, which is really the private island that kind of kicked off this private island craze for a lot of cruise lines, which is something kind of interesting. What did we think of Castaway and what did we do on the island?
So we took it pretty easy that day. We took our time getting off the ship. We didn't have anything planned, so we just went down in our bathing suits and just tried to take whatever we came across. So the first thing that we did was we met Donald at the post office. So that was really fun. We got to watch Donald and Daisy like dancing and smooching as they switched off. So that was really cute. So we had a really good experience there. And then we just kind of walked through. We got a seat at the beach under an umbrella, no problem. Like we weren't in the first row or anything, but it certainly wasn't an issue to get great seating and a bunch of seats next to each other under an umbrella. That was great. The sand was wonderful. I had brought some sand toys and my son just loved it. Like it was just the perfect environment. He could just be himself. There wasn't anyone like in the way or worried about him messing up anyone else's time. He could just be. There was plenty of space. That was lovely. And then my daughter and I braved the water. It was pretty cold. I was very happily surprised with how far out you could go without it getting deep. Like we could go pretty far and she could still stand. So we were able to have a really nice time doing that. And again, it wasn't super crowded. I mean, it was pretty cold, so I'm sure not everybody was swimming, but we had plenty of space. And I don't know which beach we were, but once we walked up, we were pretty much right at the place where they served lunch, the barbecue place.
Cookies?
Yeah, so we were able to get lunch there. And again, I was pleasantly surprised they had high chairs there. So one of the staff was able to help us get all that set up and have a high chair for my son. And he was kind of having a hard time. He had gotten some sunscreen in his eye. So we didn't stay much after lunchtime. We kind of came slowly back to the ship and we went up and we did some more swimming in their pool.
Overall, what were your thoughts of Castaway then, and how did that compare to Perfect Day?
So the only thing I would say that I would prefer Perfect Day is the pool. So they have a huge pool like kind of in the center of the island that we usually spend a lot of time at. We're not huge ocean swimmers. And so that was kind of the only thing. We didn't get around to seeing like the splash pad or anything like that. So I'd love to have been able to spend more time there just checking it out. But when you have little kids, it's kind of, you got to know when to cut and run before the meltdowns happens. We had a nice time. I wouldn't not go there again, but I definitely miss having just like a big pool instead of the salt water.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable and a good point there. But luckily, you do have another day to make up for any missed interactions there. We get to the end of your Wish sailing. Before we leave the Wish and talk about this process of moving to the Fantasy, what were your family's overall thoughts on the Wish and thoughts on your first Disney cruise experience?
I think we really enjoyed being on the ship. The room was plenty of space, good storage. We really liked having the split bathrooms. That was something we'd never experienced before. Yeah, we just ultimately had a really nice time. The character meet and greets were fantastic. Like the lines were so short. The time that they spent with you felt so personal. And yeah, it was great. It felt very clean. Yeah, the only thing that was kind of the downside for me was just it took me a long time to just find my way around.
Well, and then we get off and get onto a ship that has a completely different layout than
Yeah.
the Wish. Well, why don't we discuss a little bit about this process? Again, we've never had someone come on and discuss on the same day getting off a ship and moving to the terminal next door to get on another ship. What information was Disney Cruise Line able to provide to you about how to navigate this process?
So about 1 or 2 days before we disembarked, we had a letter in our room that pretty much said, "Hey, we know you're booked on this other ship and had our room and everything. Here's the steps you need to take to get there." So what they did was they had us keep all our luggage with us. So we did not put any of our luggage out the night before. We were supposed to keep everything and everyone with us. So they asked us to meet at Nightingale Bar, which is just off of that main lobby at 8:45 with all of our things. We were able to meet there, and then it just pretty much said that they would take us to the terminal. So we didn't really know all the details at that point. We just knew where to go and what to have with us. So we did that. We had a leisurely breakfast. I think we went again to 1923 there for breakfast and had the regular breakfast there. And we knew we weren't in any kind of rush because we would be one of the last ones off the ship. So it was pretty crazy in the lobby, everyone just kind of like lining up and stuff. So we tried to get into the Nightingale Bar ahead of time and we found it was open. So we were able to just kind of hang out in that quiet environment for a while the ship kind of emptied. We had all our stuff with us and our kids, and we took breaks to go to the bathroom and things like that. But it was kind of nice having just a space to ourselves. It ended up being us and 4 other families. So it was a group of 12 in total. So another family with kids and then 2 couples. And right before the time, a crew member came in and just checked our names on the list and made sure we were in the right spot. And then I think they wrote down how much luggage we had with us. And then once it was time, they literally escorted us out of the room, out to the main lobby, and then out the exit. We were just kept as a group the whole time. So that was really nice. We were able to bypass a lot of the lines that were still there. We didn't have to go through a certain area because we had all our luggage with us. So that was a little easier. I think we all had passports. So they had the new passport thing where if you have a passport, they just take your picture and they put you right through, which is amazing. So we just went all through as a group, and then they had us go out of the building and we had to wait in line kind of where you would go on to any other bus. So where you would go if you were going to the theme parks or if you were going to the airport or resort. So where they had the Disney transport. They had a full-size bus for us and they were able to put our luggage underneath. We actually had one of the other families had a daughter in a wheelchair and they were able to accommodate her perfectly. So that was seamless. That was no problem to get her on the bus. So yeah, they took us to the other port, which was just like a 5-minute ride. And then it was interesting. It was like maybe their first time doing this too, because our driver just kept asking us like, you guys are getting on the Fantasy, right? This is going to the Fantasy. Like he wanted to make sure he was taking us to the right place too. So he didn't pull up into one of the stalls. He kind of pulled up right at the building. So we were just like kind of let out there. He unloaded our luggage. And then again, as a group, we just walked through. We went around to the front door where there were already people waiting to go inside, but they escorted us in. We went through security and then we went upstairs and we just kind of hung out in the terminal for like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Well, turning back to my question earlier, because now you are actually in the Disney terminal, I believe.
Yes, this was definitely the Disney terminal.
What were your thoughts on this terminal?
It was much nicer. Yeah. So I think when we first walked in, we were just kind of focused on where we need to be, making sure we got settled. But then with our extra time, we were walking around and it's just beautiful. The art in the floor was just stand out. Like I took pictures of the floor and they had a photographer in front of the ship model there. So we got pictures there. It was nice. They had off to the side, they had vending machines. So we were able to get some juice and some snacks since we were there for a while. That was nice.
Typically, when people do a back-to-back sailing, they also basically get like priority boarding back onto the same ship. Did they extend that to you as well and let you onto the ship a little bit early before they started boarding families, or did you still have to adhere to your boarding time?
They gave us boarding group 2. So we were pretty much, they did the family of the day and then either concierge or the back-to-backers, and then it was us. So we waited. I mean, once they started boarding, we were like on the ship.
Did you feel like overall this process was pretty smooth and well communicated in the end then?
In the days of actually doing it, yes. As a planner, I would have loved to know that this was set in stone, 2 months ago. But in the moment, yeah, it was so smooth. We felt safe. We felt like they knew who we were and where we were supposed to be the whole time. So yeah, I felt good. As a mom, I wasn't worried that my kids were going to be stranded somewhere. I felt really good.
Yeah, well, definitely a lot of firsts here and some learning. Again, why I was very excited to have you on the show, because this is the first time we've been able to talk about this, what I'm going to call ship hopping back to back. Luckily, we got off one ship and we were getting right back on another one. So we board the Fantasy, very different layout, even though it is of similar size to the Wish. What did we think boarding the Fantasy for the first time?
We really liked boarding the Fantasy. They definitely have a different vibe. You get on the Fantasy and they're all kind of lined up there and clap for you. There wasn't any show, so you kind of went through the clap experience and then it was like, okay, now what do we do? So that was the only thing with the Wish. Like there was that little show, so we knew to hang out there for a few minutes. But yeah, it was pretty cool just walking on and having them again announce their names, but this time they like clapped and it felt a little bit more fanfare for you.
Yeah, it is really more of like a welcome aboard the Fantasy, opposed to like a magical moment type of situation. What stateroom did we book for this sailing?
So we did the same thing. So we were again on deck 7. We did 7088. This one was great. It was the first one. Like if you went down the hallway and it like kind of juts to the side and then it continues. It was the first one there when it would jut out or jut in, I guess. So it was great. Again, I always try to be kind of near the elevators, so it's not hard to get places. And deck 7 seemed just to be a great spot, again, for going up or going down. So we were really happy with it. It was, again, the deluxe family veranda.
How are we spending our first day on board the Fantasy?
So because we were earlier and lunch had been so crazy on the first day on the Wish, we did lunch first. So I really needed coffee. Somehow we ended up in the adults only cafe, like the Cove Cafe, I think. So that's the first place that we went. And I got, Ariel pressed on my latte. So that was pretty fun. But they made sure to tell us like, yeah, this is probably the last time you should bring your kids into this cafe. So we realized that was like the whole adult zone pretty quickly. But yeah, then we went to Cabanas and we had a nice lunch there. It was way less chaotic because we were much earlier this time. And so we were able to kind of have a nice little meal there and get our bearings. And then I think we went to the kids club again. So we just swapped the two.
What did you and your family think of the kids club, comparing it to what was available on the Wish?
I think we loved the kids club more on this one. Just the layout of it was awesome. I just think it flowed a little better. Andy's room at the front, we spent so much time in with our 18-month-old. They would have open house from 9 to 10 every day, I think, in the morning. And it was just so nice to go in that space and just know that he could just do whatever he wanted in that space. it didn't hurt that the moment that we were in there, I turned around and Thor was hanging out in the Marvel room. So we like immediately got a meet and greet with Thor as like being first in line. So that was a great way to start too.
Love it. And love the random character interactions you can have, not just in the kids' clubs, but all aboard a Disney Cruise Line ship. Definitely one of the things that makes these cruises special. Well, we will go in the same direction that we took the Wish sailing. Why don't we talk about entertainment? Outside of the main shows, what did you and your family do on board to occupy yourself?
Yeah, so this one was our daughter's birthday trip. Her birthday was going to be on the third day, I think. So on this ship, on the second day, we did Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. And we also did the Royal Tea Party. That was a big part of that day. Aside from that, again, we did a ton of pools. I actually did get to do the aqueduct on this one, which was really fun. I would recommend. I did some crafts. So I made like an orb from inside out as a memory thing. We did some like little Mickey crafts and we just had a lot of fun.
Yeah, slightly longer sailing here. It sounds like you got to take advantage a little bit more of the activities. Did you feel like your familiarity with kind of the flow of Disney Cruise Line helped you get more done on that second sailing, or was it more of that length of sailing?
I think both. Yeah, definitely the length of sailing helped a lot. But also, yeah, we were just kind of familiar again with like how Disney does stuff where it was completely brand new to us on the Wish. So, we weren't old hats, but at least we had the feel a little bit. So yeah, I think we were able to get our sea legs on this one a little quicker.
Love it. And you mentioned doing the Royal Tea. What did you think of that experience? And did you feel that it was worth it for the price?
It was expensive, but for our daughter's birthday and for like, this kind of maybe once ever event that we're going to do 2 back-to-backs, I really wanted to do that. It was so fun as a mom, just like sitting there watching this happen. The 2 actors were just fantastic. They were so into their roles. I think the like mistress of the tea and then the baker, it was just amazing. And then it was like a, private show. It was us and maybe 12 other, moms and daughters. There was one dad that had 3 daughters there that by the end was carrying a humongous stack of stuff out of there. But yeah, it was just really a nice experience. It felt really classy. It felt like, they put a lot of thought into the show itself. Having the waiters come out and they were all choreographed on how they would walk out and pour the tea and serve the meal. Like I wouldn't go into it thinking you're having a fancy sit down meal. I would go into it thinking you're in a little interactive show. It was just really fun. They had a lot of toys and great stuff for my daughter to take home and stuff, but just the show itself was really fun. I don't know that I would do it every time, but once in every few years or something like that, definitely would do.
Yeah, very expensive. Lots and lots of little trinkets to take home with you, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Our suitcase was much fuller on the way home than on the way there.
Turning it towards the shows, I know you were excited specifically for Frozen on board the Fantasy. Were we able to see Frozen, and did we take advantage of seeing any of the other shows as well?
Yeah, so we wanted to prioritize Frozen, and it happened to be that show was actually on her birthday, so that worked out perfectly. We knew we weren't going to make it to the 8:30 showing, so we talked to our wait staff ahead of time and let them know we weren't going to be there. And they were so sweet. They wanted to still do like a birthday song for her, so they did that the night before. So they did the whole like bringing out a little fake candle and singing her happy birthday the night before. So we went to the 6:00 showing for Frozen and it was fantastic. I'm so glad that we went to the early showing and got to sit through it with my daughter awake and mostly happy. We did the whole popcorn and drinks and things like that. That was really fun. But yeah, the show quality was just fantastic. And that we actually utilized the nursery. We hadn't booked any nursery hours ahead of time and we just stopped in there to ask if they had any time the day before, and they happened to. So we were able to book a few hours for our son in the nursery. And that worked out just so perfectly.
Awesome. Well, glad you were able to take advantage of some of the shows on this sailing. Anything else that we did on board or entertainment wise that you and your family did that you enjoyed?
Well, we also went to the Believe show. My daughter and I did that on I think it was the very last night. She slept through most of it and I had to carry her back to the room, but I had a really nice time and the show was fantastic.
So we are once again going to turn it towards dining. We have a different trio of restaurants on board the Fantasy. What did you and your family think of the dining on board the Fantasy?
We really loved the dining on the Fantasy, maybe a little bit more than the Wish, even though the Wish had more interactive shows. I think we probably liked Marvel the most of the interactive shows. The animator's palette, when I walked in there, I was blown away. Like, I mean, I had seen it on videos and things like that, but it doesn't do it any justice until you're really in that space. I just thought it was so cool in there. I forget so the other one was the Royal one.
Royal Court.
Royal Court, yeah. So
And
that
then
one
Enchanted Garden.
Enchanted Garden, okay. The Royal Court we ended up in a lot. So we had that two of the nights, and then we were there for breakfast a few times, I think. So we were just in that room a lot. And we definitely took our time to walk around and look at all the art in there. It's kind of like a zone for each princess. It was really nice just to see the theming and the room itself. The Enchanted Garden, we missed that one with the blooming. We only went there on Pirate Night because of skipping dinner for the Frozen show. So I never really got to see the whole vision of that room.
Of all of your dining through these 6 nights, was there a highlight meal-wise for you? I know you said Marvel was probably your favorite entertainment-wise.
Yeah, I couldn't say that any of the meals really stood out. Sorry.
That's okay. Overall, though, you enjoyed the fantasy food more than the Wish, you felt like? Or the fantasy restaurants, I should say?
I would just say, I don't want to say that our serving team on the Wish did anything wrong, but on the Fantasy, they had more time with us. And I don't know if that was the culture of the ship or the number of guests, but we just felt we got a lot more attention on the Fantasy. Our servers did special things with our children. They made little hearts out of the wrappers of the straws and made like little napkin animals and things like that. And it was just more of a fun dining experience that they made it. And I'm not sure if they just had more time or, it's just different culture on the different ships.
Gotcha. Yeah, your dining team really can be make or break for your rotational dining experience, especially since you are stuck with them for the duration of your cruise. I'm glad to hear that your fantasy crew, though, was standout for you.
They were, yeah.
Is there anything else that we did aboard the ship that you'd like to discuss before we move on to talking about the islands?
I can't think of anything other than the coffee cafe. So the coffees for like the specialty lattes, they were extra, but you could get any of the treats in the case for free. So the crew there was super sweet, and we would get the little fancy Rice Krispie treats on a stick for our kids. And that was a really nice little touch.
Did you go up to the cove or down to the one on deck 4?
The one on deck 4, we were constantly around there, and so we did that. We also were there a lot for character meet greets. They had that one breakaway area on level 4, so you'd be standing in line right by that coffee shop a lot.
Well, moving towards our ports of call here, we had already mentioned that you did not get off the ship in Nassau, but the benefit of this sailing is you get both of Disney Cruise Line's private island experiences, one new and one a second return to.
Right.
What were your thoughts going to Lookout? This is Disney's newer private island experience. How did that time on the island live up to your expectations?
So, yeah, we were very excited to go to both private islands. We thought that was pretty privileged that we would get to do that as new cruisers. But we pulled up, we could see the pier from our room, and that was a little daunting. So we decided that we would definitely take our stroller with us. We saw that they had wagons out there, but there were not very many. There was maybe 40 wagons or something. And by the time we knew that we'd be getting off the ship, that it'd be unlikely that we would get one. So we brought just our little stroller for our baby, and it worked out great. He just sat on the stroller. Our daughter walked some and rode on my husband's shoulders, and we did. It only took us 11 minutes to walk from the ship to the like arrival area. So it was way quicker than I was expecting. And, neither of us are speed walkers or runners, and we had little ones with us. It wasn't anything that we were worried about for the comeback or anything. Riding in the tram was great. We left the ship a little bit late, so we didn't have to wait at all in line for the tram. We got right on the first one that was there. And when we got there, it was actually really nice when you had a stroller with you because it was all boardwalk. So we weren't really like pushing it through sand or having to worry about anything like getting around wise. It was pretty nice and easy. We ended up, as soon as we got there, they were doing like a craft for the Junkanoo parade. So we kind of watched that craft going down, and then we got to watch the little Junkanoo parade kind of at one of the pavilions. So that was really fun to have that, pretty much as soon as we'd gotten there.
And what did you think of like the overall layout of Lookout compared to Castaway?
So Castaway seemed like a straight line, where Lookout felt more, and I'm not looking at the map, I don't really know how it's laid out, but it kind of felt like a wheel with spokes. So you kind of could get to an area and you could see like, well, if I go this way, I'll get to this. If I go this way, I'll get to this. So you could kind of look around and see what you wanted to go to, where in Castaway, we were kind of like, well, we'll just see what we happen upon as we walk down this line. So it was just laid out very differently, I thought.
And did you enjoy your time at Lookout?
We did. The sand was so soft. The water was good. It was a little bit more wavy. So it wasn't bad at all, but like you could tell like there was just more waves, and that was actually kind of really fun to just jump in the waves a little bit. We did the splash pad for a long time. Our daughter loved that, and my son just loved. By that point, he was so tired of the stroller, so I let him walk on the boardwalk, and he just loved walking around. So it was a great experience. We kind of divided up, let our daughter hang out in the splash pad for a super long time at the end of the day. And yeah, we got some souvenirs from there. And yeah, it was just a great experience.
Did you dine on the island as well?
We didn't. No, we kind of never prioritized that. So yeah, we didn't have any meals on that island.
About how long did you spend on the island then?
I think we were on the island like maybe 3.5 hours.
Okay, so then you just went back to the ship and dined on board the ship when you got back, or?
Yeah, I think we just skipped lunch that day. Well, I think we got ice cream on the island, and we just made that our lunch. We had enough food by the end of that trip that we weren't very hungry, I think.
Never a shortage of food, that is for sure. And
yeah.
Ice cream for any meal is also acceptable when you are on a sailing. Overall, so you did mention that you were a pretty big like researcher and watched the videos. Did you feel like Lookout met your expectations of the island? Yeah, I think it did meet my expectations. It was just really beautiful and fun in person. A lot of people talked about the landscape and the growth, and you could see like, yeah, there was baby plants, right? Like it's a brand new place, and probably 10 years from now, it's going to look completely different, but it's not like it's not done. It's ready for people to be there. And we didn't have any problem finding seats. We didn't have any problem navigating around. Yeah, it was great. And all the staff was friendly and just exactly what we would expect. Love it. Well, you get back aboard the ship and you have one more private island day because you are back to Castaway. How was your second day at Castaway?
So you're going to be really disappointed in us because we never made it off the boat.
Honestly, I'm not disappointed at all, because that is, like, we talk about staying on board the ship during Nassau and enjoying a less crowded ship. If you truly want an empty ship, Castaway Day is the day to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we just made that day like a yes day for our daughter, and we were just like, whatever you want to do. So we had made it all the way to the last day without meeting Mickey Mouse. And so that was our biggest priority, was to meet Mickey Mouse. So we prioritized getting in his line. And then we also did the midship detective that day. So we rocked it out. We did 2 out of the 3, I think, or 2 out of the 4, and just had a blast doing that, like running all around. And then, yeah, we just had a really like chill day. We swam, we did the midship detective. Yeah, we just had a really nice day that last day, knowing, it would be our last day on any ship for a while. So we just did what we wanted.
Well, it's the best thing about any cruise is that it is choose your own adventure and you can stay on board the ship and have an absolutely fantastic day no matter where you are. Sadly, that is your last day, and this time you are disembarking for real and heading home. What was your family's plans to get back home?
Yeah, so we just used Disney Transport to get us to the Orlando airport. So that was super smooth. We had the sit down breakfast. We had left our luggage outside so that they could pick it up. So we were able to just get off the ship when it was time. There was a good line for us to stand in when it was time to get off the ship, but it moved and it was fine. Again, they did the whole easy security check thing through customs with the passport picture. So yeah, it was pretty easy, really smooth. We were the first to get on our bus, so we sat on our bus for a little bit before taking off as they filled up. But once it was full, we just went straight to the airport and it was fine.
So I have just a couple more questions for you. One, as first-time cruisers, was there anything you wish you had known going into either of these sailings that you know now that would have changed how you approached the cruise or what you did on board?
I think as a first-time cruiser, that first day is just so overwhelming. And we're usually pretty good about planning almost nothing through our cruise and just going with the flow. But just even more, just plan that day is just roll with the punches. Just have almost no expectations of that first day, and then maybe take a little bit more time to tour the ship and get your bearings. We kind of threw ourselves into the kids club and the parties and things like that. And I don't regret going to any of those things, but it would have been nice just to take a little time just to navigate the ship a little bit.
Yeah, first day can definitely be difficult and a little bit overwhelming, especially for a first-time cruiser. There's a lot of things you have to do on the first day. At some point, you have to go and see your room. You have to go and do the muster station. And of course, at some point, you have to eat. But when everyone else is excited to do all of these same things or not so excited for the muster station, it makes for a pretty congested day before people can disperse and spread out. Would you do this back-to-back ship hopping again?
It was an awesome experience. And I think now being more comfortable with Disney, I think I would do it again. I don't know if we're going to, but I wouldn't dissuade anyone from doing it. We got to experience 6 different restaurants, so many different venues, and they had different characters on each ship. I think if we had done a back-to-back, a 3-night and a 4-night on the Wish, I don't know if maybe it would have gotten a little stale for us to go back to the same restaurants and watch the same shows. Or maybe there was enough to do that we could prioritize the shows instead of the restaurants or vice versa. But yeah, I'm still glad that we did it. And if anybody is interested in doing it, I would say go for it, because it was a great experience and kind of a unique first try at Disney.
Yeah, definitely a unique first experience for sure. If you had to pick between the two ships, which was your favorite, the Fantasy or the Wish?
So I think my husband would disagree, but I would say the Fantasy is my favorite. Just the layout of it, just the vibe that you get on that ship, it just felt so relaxing. I don't know. I just on the Wish, it felt maybe because they are so quick to turn families around. It just felt a little bit more rushed, a little bit more like you got to get things in quickly. But yeah, if someone was to ask me like between the two, I would 100% go back on the Fantasy in a heartbeat.
We support that answer. As much as we love all the ships, everyone knows that most of us here at the podcast have a soft spot for the Fantasy.
Can I bring up a little weird tip?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my daughter and my son, in the winter, we love to do a bath just like for fun. And I knew that there were bathtubs in the staterooms. So I brought bath bombs with me. And it was like the best for my daughter, like when she just needed some downtime, to have a bath bomb in the bathtub. And the Fantasy bathtub being round was amazing. For some reason, like that shape in the Fantasy was just way more fun, and the way that the water came out was just way more fun. So I think she used every single bath bomb that I brought, and it was just a really fun little treat for her to do while we kind of waited for room service or just hung out waiting for the baby to wake up from a nap or something.
I love that so much. Did you have any notable cast interactions you wanted to highlight from either of these sailings?
Yeah, so we're huge Chip and Dale fans here. So we had got our daughter to memorize the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers theme song. And so when we met with them, we all broke out in the song and like they danced, their like handler sang along with us, and we just had such a like dance party, like impromptu with them. It was so fun. They gave my daughter like the longest hugs ever. And afterwards, the handler asked like our stateroom number, and they left us a card just saying like how fun they had with us dancing. And then also our stateroom attendant, because it was our daughter's birthday, our travel agent had set up for decorations for her birthday. And that attendant went above and beyond, like she slept on the top bunk every night. And the attendant, he made her bed so cutely every single night. And then he realized my daughter was making the bottom bunk for her doll. And so he also made that bottom bunk for her doll, like the last 3 nights. So he just like took extra time to just make it more special for her, which meant so much to us.
Love that as well. And love the opportunity to highlight some cast interactions as well. Well, Cassie, unfortunately, your sailings are over, but that means we get to plan for the next one. What is next for your family?
I think we are going on Royal Caribbean at the end of this year. So we have that planned for now. And then the plan is to do either a land and sea trip or another longer Disney cruise, probably when our son is 3. So in about a year and a half, we're going to do that so that he can take more advantage of the kids' clubs and stuff.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your family's adventures, not only on the Disney Wish, but also on the Disney Fantasy, and highlighting the experience of doing this ship hopping process. Again, really excited to be able to share this information with our listeners.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to wrap up our show. Once again, you can always follow me at MouseGen on YouTube or mouse.gen on Instagram, or you can follow Christy at Pack Your Pixie Dust on all of the socials. And you can follow the podcast at DCLpodcast.com or at DCL_podcast on Instagram. But that is going to wrap up our show. We'd like to thank you once again for listening, and we will catch you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys.
Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Cassie for coming on and sharing her and her family's adventures on the Disney Wish and Disney Fantasy. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a ship, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.